Shedeur Sanders finds himself in a remarkable position.
Let's go.
Y'all look at it as like a competition.
My answer to this question would be Deshaun Watson.
I think each and every person that walks into this locker room should have that mindset that you want to start. That's why we show up each and every day.
This is the most important thing I have to do in my life.
Good news.
Well, Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson was back on the field Saturday for the first time since 2024. He went 11 of 15 for 126 yards while leading Cleveland on its only 2 scoring drives. Watson now nearly 2 years removed from tearing his right Achilles tendon. Here's what first-year head coach Todd Monken had to say on a timeline for making a decision, and it's new on SportsCenter.
Would I like to have a decision today? Of course. Would I like a decision by next Monday? Of course. Oh, I'd love to have that decision. And we'll see. We've got a lot of football this week. We've got 4 days of practice and a game that all adds into any decision with the roster and who the starters are. And I'm okay. By the time we get to next week, that'd be great. We can start planning that way, have some practice, and then here we go against Jacksonville.
Our Browns reporter Daniel Oyefusi joining us from camp in Berea, Ohio. And Deshaun Watson, he made the most out of his first action since tearing his right Achilles. That was 22 months ago. What does his momentum just mean for the quarterback competition moving forward?
Yeah, Kiana, head coach Tom Monken was extremely pleased with Watson in his first game since 2024. He said that he executed and functioned at a really high level, but as you just heard, he's not yet ready to make a decision at starting quarterback just yet. And this week in Cleveland is an extremely big one. We've got joint practices with the Bills on Thursday, where Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson will split first-team reps, and then Sanders will start the second preseason game at Saturday at home. And it's to be determined which starters will play with Sanders, but he will get an opportunity to play the entire first half and lead this offense for an extended period of time.
So how do the Browns then feel about Shedeur Sanders' progress? Just at this point in time, we did get to see him a little bit there in that preseason game in the second half, but how do they feel at this point?
Yeah, well, the preseason opener was a mixed bag. He had 2 big completions for chunk gains, but then he also threw an interception on a pass that he said just slipped out of his hands. Overall, since the spring into the summer, Todd Monken has been extremely complimentary of the growth of Sanders, both pre-snap, getting the offense in and out of the huddle, and then post-snap, going through his reads, checking the ball down if nothing's there. So in the eyes of Monken, he just wants him to continue to show that growth and do this specifically: keep stacking plays.
And he has a great opportunity to stack those plays. Like you mentioned, joint practices, those kicking off Thursday before Shedeur does get that start in the second preseason game. Daniel will be all eyes on it. We appreciate you, my friend.
Out of Atlanta with their offseason quarterback addition, Tua Tagovailoa said his Falcons preseason debut was not up to standard, not even up to par. Tua didn't play all that much against the Broncos, just 2 series, 3 of 5 passing, 22 yards, all 4 of his targets going to Kyle Pitts. Those are some of the highlights on the screen. Kevin Stefanski was asked today about his comfort level of where Alabama's quarterback competition is. That's new on SportsCenter.
I'm very comfortable with where we are right now, and that's kind of where I'll leave it. I feel good about where we are. We're continuing on our process, continuing where we are, keeping the main thing, which is the practices this week. I think, again, will be good for everybody, including the quarterbacks, going up against a defense that they haven't seen. So all of this is important as we get ready for week 1.
All right, joining me now is our NFL insider, Dan Graziano. To be fair, I've never heard a head coach in any sport say, we don't have a quarterback or we have nothing. So, of course, he's going to answer that way. But how would you answer about what you're hearing about Atlanta's quarterback competition?
Well, Matt, it's really not a competition in earnest yet because Michael Penix Jr. still has not been cleared for 11-on-11 team drills. And until that happens, then he's really no threat to Tua Tagovailoa in terms of week 1 starting quarterback. What you're hearing from Kevin Stefanski there is, yeah, I'm comfortable with where we are. I think what's unsaid is, like, there's no game this week. I'm comfortable with the idea that we can get these guys or this guy ready within the next 3 weeks to start when a game counts for real. So I think that's what you're hearing from Kevin Stefanski, who, by the way, Matt, spent the previous 6 years in Cleveland answering questions every single year about uncertain quarterback situations. So he's got some practice with this.
Anyone who's coached and played in Cleveland understands that quarterback list is long and not distinguished. Let's go across the league. We got a first look at the 2026 draft class. There's been some stars out there. What's been the reviews? Let's start with number 1 overall pick, Fernando Mendoza.
Fernando Mendoza, the Raiders are happy with his progress. They do not want to play him right away. That's why they signed Kirk Cousins. That's why Kirk Cousins is getting first-team reps with the starters throughout training camp, and they'll continue to bring Mendoza along at his pace. The Raiders want to make sure that when they do put him in a game, not only is he ready to go, but that they are ready for him. They want their offensive line to feel good about that. They want their wide receiver situation to shake out. So they have work to do before they feel like they're ready for Fernando Mendoza. The Rams don't need to be ready for Ty Simpson anytime soon because they have Matthew Stafford, but they were still very pleased with what they saw from Simpson in their first preseason game. People with the Rams would tell you that Simpson started to play a little better in practice once the pads went on and the environment started to feel a little more competitive. So no surprise that he would play well in a game situation. They feel good about his future there in L.A. Jeremiah Love in Arizona was sensational in their preseason game on Thursday night. However, he did sprain his ankle, and according to Adam Schefter, it's a high ankle sprain that will keep Jeremiah Love out of the remainder of the preseason. Their hope, obviously, is that he can be back in time for week 1. Cardinals' 3rd overall draft pick. They're very excited about him being a huge part of their offense as a rookie. And Jacoby Lane is a 3rd-round rookie wide receiver for the Baltimore Ravens. We don't know how big a part of their offense he'll be, but based on the way he's played in training camp and the way he played in the first preseason game, he's going to be tough to keep off the field. He's big, he's got large hands, he can make contested catches, and he's been one of the stars of training camp so far. So, the Ravens, they have Zay Flowers, they have Rashad Bateman, and they have Mark Andrews, the tight end, who's obviously going to catch a lot of balls. But Jacoby Lane's a guy that they may have to make some room for in Lamar Jackson's pass catcher core if he keeps showing out the way he has in camp.
Yeah, adding another weapon for him is not a bad thing. And by the way, he could be a star for the fantasy managers. If you like what you saw at Lane, rostered in only 12% of ESPN fantasy leagues. You win with the sleepers. We all know that. Cowboys hope they win with defense this year. They added future Hall of Fame pass rusher and Texas native Von Miller to their defense. What can you share about the impact Dallas believes he'll provide?
Well, they believe he'll provide impact as a situational pass rusher. He had 9 sacks for the Washington Commanders last year, played about a third of their defensive snaps, which is really where he was the previous 2 years when he was in Buffalo. Von Miller is a player at this stage of his career at age 37 that is not going to be a full-time player, but could help them finish off games if they have leads in the fourth quarter as they expect to. Additionally, they have a very young group on the defensive side of the ball, including their first-time defensive coordinator, Christian Parker. So Von Miller and his experience could be something that they need in that room as they try to make this the year they finally make a deep playoff run for the first time in 3 decades.
Yeah, fresh legs, maybe a closer at the end of the game. I think this is a home run for the Dallas Cowboys, especially with his connection there to that area. What did you just do? Did you just swat at something?
It's a moth or something. I don't know what's going on down here. So, yeah.
A moth in your home?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a bug of some kind. I'm going to do some more research and get back to you.
All right. Well, you're coming up later in the show, so please get the bug identification by
I'll let you know how it goes.
Can't wait.
All right.
That's Real Sports Center. Jets running back Breece Hall left practice today with a strained groin. Hall figures to be a focal point of the offense after signing that 3-year, $43.5 million contract this offseason. That put him in the top 5 of running back deals all time. And the Vikings will be without veteran linebacker Jamal Adams. He went down with a non-contact injury to his right knee in Saturday's preseason opener. Adams has been plagued by injuries over the past few years. Last year, he played in double-digit games for just the first time since 2021.
All right, Kiana, same as it ever was for Jackson Dart and the Giants, and it's leaving the second-year quarterback in a bit of confusion. In the preseason opener right here, Dart was taken to the blue medical tent after that hit. In the opener against the Vikings, Dart made 5 trips to the tent his rookie season. He's already 1 for 1 in the preseason. And our Giants reporter Jordan Ronald was there at MetLife Stadium. You cover the team, you know the team. He goes back to the tent, does Jackson Dart. What can you tell us about his latest trip in that preseason opener?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I actually asked Jackson after the game on Saturday and said, take us through what happened there in that play and then to the touchdown he threw in the play after he came back. And unsolicited and in the middle of the answer, he said he's puzzled about the NFL or the process bringing him back to the blue tent consistently. Because now if you think about it, that's 6 times total to the blue tent. one of those times he was diagnosed with a concussion. But I want to take you through the process for a second a little bit. The NFL said it was a standard medical timeout, right? And I've seen firsthand how this process works. They have multiple independent neurologists and medical trainers looking at the play in real time, the replays. And in this case, when you think about it, Jackson Dart laid there for 3 seconds and didn't move. And that could be then indicate, right, to the medical spotter and the independent neurologist that maybe he needs to be checked. And that's what they decided in this case. So it's definitely a narrative that has bothered him to some degree, but it's kind of the reality he has to live with if he's on the ground and he's going to not move for several seconds.
Yeah, also, if you pop right back up, maybe we're not having this conversation, but he laid there, didn't move. All of a sudden, the NFL people have to do their job, which is why they're there, is to protect the players from head injuries. All right, so he's got to adjust his play a little bit on and off the field with how he's dealing with things, especially with his new offensive coordinator, Matt Nagy. What can you tell us about that progression with new OC, young quarterback?
Yeah, that's another part of this Jackson Dart equation. It's not automatically, year two quarterback jump, right? Because we're talking about a quarterback who now is going for the second year and has to learn a new offense. And the Giants are kind of trying to merge multiple offenses together, and Dart's learning them. So it's kind of been a slow progression this summer. Nagy has even said, he's going to go through his highs and lows. Even in that game, the preseason game, it was 2 drives, but it kind of explained the whole Jackson Dart predicament, right? The first drive, held the ball too long on the 3rd down, takes a sack. Second drive, ends up in the blue tent, comes back in later on, makes a spectacular against his body sidearm type throw. The fact that he still has those throws in the bag, I think is what the Giants are banking on, because I know that people here are convinced that this is going to be a high-level quarterback that they can win with, ultimately win Super Bowls with. Yeah. Remember, big part about why John Harbaugh came here, Jackson Dart.
He's an exciting player for sure, but again, a young quarterback's going to go through those growing pains in the NFL, especially just in year 2 and a new offensive coordinator. But everyone around the Giants, Jordan, we got to know about Malik Nabers coming back from the ACL just 4 games into the season. What can you tell us about his progression?
Yeah, the Giants are practicing outside right now. To some degree, Malik Nabers is in a red jersey, generally reserved for quarterbacks, right? But in this case, he's coming back from a serious knee injury, and he's participating to some degree in live drills. That's a step in the right direction for Nabers. The regular season is still 27 days away. The Giants play their opener against the Dallas Cowboys. There is optimism that Malik Nabers will be ready for week 1 this season.
I mean, when's the last time we've been able to say there's optimism for the Giants? If you're a Giants fan, new coach, Malik Nabers is healthy, Jackson Dart's exciting, Cam Scatterbo, when he's not doing backflips on WWE, he's exciting as well. Either way, going to be a fun year. Jordan Rana with the latest. Jordan, thank you.
Well, there's